connect our Spring Boot application to S3. We already create this bucket and we already upload some of the files, and manually we drag and drop and we can download and upload once we log into our AWS console. Now we want to do the similar thing from our system so that we can achieve file storage and file uploading and downloading mechanism so that our application don't need to save files in their local computer, right? Because if we have a distributed system, then it would be better just to put all the storage in one place instead of spread the data in different servers, make the server stateful, which is not good practice. What if your server is offline? What if the server is crashed? Then your data will be lost, right? So these from the designs, architecture system designs are best practice. We always make our data centralized, okay, shareable, and also high available. Okay, so in order to do the operations in the S3 from our Java application, so let's just firstly create a new module, and we're just gonna call it AWS demo, right? And here we gonna change our package and the artifact keep the same, and Java version change it to 11. Use Maven. Okay, next, and we're gonna choose Spring Boot to 2, and let's just select some of the commonly used modules. Like we can provide an API. Then we don't need database at this moment, so we just leave it there. And also we have a cloud. Okay, if you look at it, for the cloud we also have AWS cloud support. Okay, so I don't know if it's listed here or not, but AWS cloud, Spring Cloud do have support with AWS. Basically, it's just provide some APIs to simplify our coding process against AWS. But here it doesn't list. I don't know if it's there. Azure is there, GCP is there. Where's AWS? Okay, anyways, so let's because in this demo we don't need it, so I'm just gonna want to show you. But since it's not there, maybe it will be there sometime. Maybe I didn't find it. Okay, anyways, so let's just create. We're gonna just use Lombok and Spring Web. Okay, let's just create this project very quick, and it's over here. And so now we want to integrate with the AWS. How we do it? Okay, we have to use the SDK from AWS. Okay, we just search AWS Java SDK and go AWS SDK for Java, and then here's the documentation of how we can use the APIs to interact with various different kind of services in AWS. We can firstly download our dependency. Okay, so here's the GitHub page for the AWS SDK. Okay, so it seems like there's a lot of them, and just to be careful when you choose. Okay, so when you choose, you have to make sure that the version is the latest version, because sometimes on the online tutorials you can have a lot of different versions of your SDKs and if you directly look at the tutorial, they probably is old and they use older SDK, and maybe it will cause some incompatible issue or incompatibility issue. Okay, so we can have it here, and we see there's a Maven. Okay, central and import the dependency management. Okay, the BOM file, and for this one, as you can see, the API version is 2.19.15. Okay, and if we look at the developer's guide, okay, and then let's just go to the quick start. Okay, and then scroll down all the way down to the Maven part. Okay, it's POM XML, and you'll see it has the similar dependency. In that case, okay, that is good, and we can just start using this one. Okay, so let's quickly copy this to our project. Okay, so dependency management, or you can just now refer to this page. Okay, usually the GitHub page is the most accurate one, but just to double check, because the tutorial or even the official document, it may use a different version. Okay, you can see AWS SDK version 2.18.16, and this one is 2.19.15. And you see there is a difference between the GitHub, the latest one, and the tutorial they're trying to use. Okay, so which one? It's all depends on your luck. Okay, but the major version should be fine. But it just in case if your code is not working because you are using the latest dependency and using the older version of tutorial, that may cause issue. Okay, this happens a lot, not just for AWS dependency, but also for other systems, other architectures. You also will have this same issue. Okay, so there is a parameter in this here. We can copy this, or we can just directly put this version there. Okay, where is it? Here. Okay. All right. So here we go, and then the dependencies, right? So we have a S3 dependency. Also, we have a for this tutorial, it seems like they don't have. Okay, they just have S3 here, and you can see for here it also have EC2. DynamoDB. Okay, so let's just use this one S3. But this for this dependency in this Maven, it have this exclusion tag to just exclude those two dependencies out of the package. Okay, I don't know what's the reason they didn't give an explanation. Maybe there is some conflict with the other dependencies, so it's just exclusive out, or maybe it just want to use the minimum required packages, so that has an extra exclusion there. But for I think we should be fine if we just use S3. Okay, this one. All right, and then now we refresh the Maven. It will start downloading all the dependencies. And in the library, we'll see the AWS related. Start with here, right? Software.amazon.aws SDK. Okay, so with that configured, now let's try to configure S3 service. Okay, there's an example here. Okay, so the S3 client, and you can see it's using dependency factory.s3 client, and it send a request. This is to send out the request, and then tutorial setup. Okay, so this is the setup of the S3 client. Seems like no, it's the create bucket there. Okay, and then clean up, and then run and build. Okay, so we can use this one. Okay, so this is only for S3. This is to create a S3 client. Okay, so if you look at the explanation, so this is actually the starting point of using S3. Okay, how do I know? Because I used it before. Okay, and we can just copy this part. Okay, and then we can just put it somewhere that we want to try. Okay, since it's a web application, we can create an API. Then we can use the API to trigger our functionality. Okay, so let's just do that, and we can create a controller. Okay, so we can just call it a S3 file controller, and we can just have a REST controller annotation, and we can have let's just use get mapping for now. Okay, public, let's just return a string at this moment, and get file. Okay, and then here we can paste our code here, and let's just return hello first. Okay, make things work first, and then we're gonna refactor, because it's just for testing purpose. We don't know whether it will work or not. Okay, so let's just import everything, and the client is S3 client.builder. Sorry, and the region is the region US West one, which is not right. Okay, US East one. Endpoint override. Okay, so here we don't need to override endpoint, because the S3.US West 2 seems is the US West 2's region. Okay, we don't need that. And force path style. Okay, so if you don't know what does that mean, just Control or Command and click on the name and download the source code. So So it will tell us what does this method do. Okay. Force this client to use path style addressing for buckets. Okay, so path style just like the slash, right? So we can just keep it there for now, and then let's see what this client can do. Okay, client dot, and here we can copy object, create bucket, delete bucket, right? And also we can have a multi-part uploading. This is to use multiple connections to upload the same file to accelerate the speed. Right, I can have a lot of delete different policies, different bucket replicas, delete tags. So basically whatever we can do using the console, we can use the client to achieve the same goal, right? And also we can get object, okay, it should be somewhere down there, okay. And the get object has so many different parameters, right, like overloaded, okay. So we have a get object request as input, consumer as input, okay, so a lot of them. Which one to choose? Okay, so then here is where you can refer to the document and to learn how to use it, or we can just have a wild guess, right? So let's just use this one, get object, okay, because the next step of this tutorial should be let us bucket operations, okay, create a bucket, list a bucket. So all the code are here actually. If by looking at this document, we will learn how to create a bucket, list a bucket. Okay, let's find the get object by name, okay, object operations, and then here upload object, download an object, okay. So let's just use download an object, right? So and here is the way that we can create a get object request and then get object using the S3 client. All right, so we can just copy this one, put it here, and import, import the class and the bucket name and the key. All right, so we don't know it yet, but let's just put this here, and then the bucket name, we already created a bucket. The bucket name is this one, okay, and then the key is this one, right? And then after we call the get, okay, how we can get the file? Okay, so the file we can have dot. You can see here we have a response, okay, or we can just directly read the data out. Okay, so from the response we can get all the object information, right? So the file's information, okay. So like when you modified or things like that. So if we want to just put the data into a file, right? So for now, let's see, we want to put it under the current execution folder. Let's see if they have the code we can copy. No, they don't. But let's see the complete example. There must be a completion of download a file, right? Put object, list object, get object. Oh, they don't have. They just call the get and then they forget about the file. Okay, which is a bad example. Okay, so they just get the file out and then just forget it. Okay, so now we have to write our own code. Okay, so this is related to Java I/O, okay, or stream file input and output. So we can use the file util class, file utils, okay, dot not file util. In Spring, okay, we have this file copied utils dot, and then we can copy the file, okay, from an input stream to output stream. Okay, so let's get object, and then we can get, let's find the input stream from this object, from this response. Dot response dot, let's see if anywhere we can get a stream. Okay, so looks like there's no object there. Okay, so if we call the read, let me see what's the return type of this. Oh, it's already returned the input stream. Okay, so this input stream extends this and the file input stream and this input stream. Okay, so it itself is an input stream, so we don't need to touch anything here, and then we can just give output stream. Okay, so the output stream, file output stream FOS, go to new file output stream, and then here we need to give it a file. Okay, file output stream takes a name of your file. So if we want, we can give let's see, just the pick, okay, .png. Throws exception, just add the exception there, okay, for now, and then we can just put the file output stream there, okay, and then copy also throw exception. Let's just add it here. All right, just delete the import. Okay, so now in this API, okay, once we call the get mapping, and then let's give a URL, get/file, for instance, okay, and then we can actually put the ID there. Okay, so let's not do that for now. Let's just localhost 8080/file, and then it will create a S3 client, and then it will create an object of getting request from S3, and then we copy this file into our local file. Okay, so this is the output stream. Okay, sorry I didn't prepare anything in advance, just because this is the way that we learn new stuff, right? So I used this in our other demo project, but maybe it's not in this kind of format. I still remember the S3 client takes two parameters. One is bucket, one is key. But for now, they don't have the method anymore. So they have to create this kind of request object. But anyway, so this also demonstrates you how you can, gain some like knowledge or experience directly from the document, right? Anyways, so now let's try this, okay? And let's just start this project, AWS demo application. And then it's on, okay, localhost 8080. Let's try it. Localhost 8080/file. All right, and hit enter. Okay, so then it gives us error. That's totally normal. Okay, and here it will say this AWS access key ID you provide doesn't exist in our record. Okay, so what's going on? Okay, so the same thing happened again. So we saw this multiple times. It's because this console is still there. Let's just clear. Okay, if I do AWS S3 list now, you can see here. Okay, so the AWS access key ID you provide does not exist. Okay, so this is because our AWS access key, right? It's the problem. Like now we go to AWS folder and take a look at the keys. Okay, so they are still there. Okay, this is my access key and a secret key. Okay, I think the reason is because the key is not enabled in our where I can just go here. Okay, IAM. Okay, in the IAM, make sure that the user credential, the key is active and you are using the correct one. Okay, WF5. Okay, so this is the correct one. I just need to make it active. Okay, now it's active, and if I run the command AWS S3 ls, it will take a while. Okay, so now you can see we have this, right? We have this bucket now. Now our application should also be working. Let's just clear this and then go to the localhost, refresh. All right, now it returns hello and no errors, and then our file should be here. Okay, so this is the file we just downloaded from the S3 bucket. Okay, so this is the file downloading. It's very primitive, and the road is very bumpy because I made a lot of mistakes. But we have to have to create a service, right? So let's just call it S3 service. Like follow the traditional way, we have to create an interface first, and then we have to give it a package name. Okay, and then set. No, it just move the file to the package, and then we create an implementation of this service. Okay, add service annotation, so basic Spring, don't forget, and then we're gonna use those code in there. Okay, not in the controller, and we can declare a method that we can call it public input stream, or we can just directly go void. Let's see, we call download file, and here we take two parameter. One is bucket, one is key, and then one could be the destination file, or we can just use the same as the key here, and then from the controller we can just copy the whole to here, and it throws exception, so here we can just make it throw it out and throw it out. And then here we have to change the bucket, and then here we change the key. So the file name is also we change it to the key, which is not very good, because here you can see if we just download the file to our server, then how the user get it, right? So this controller, the user try to download the file through our system. So then we need to also provide file name, and then here we're going to get it using path variable. File name. A bucket name usually we don't provide to the user, so we just use the same bucket for all the files. Let's see. So then in that case we have to make sure we save the bucket name somewhere in the system. And then here, instead of return a string, we should do a file download. So the file downloading, we can just make a void at this moment. I'll show you how to do the download, and then for here we just don't need to save the file. We don't need to use the file copy. Instead we just return our stream. And here we're going to change it to input stream. Copy this and then put it in our interface. And also one more thing is this client could be reused. So this S3 client could be reused. We can make it as a Spring configuration. So we can create a config, S3 config, and then we put add configuration annotation here, and then we put this S3 client. We just copy it, and then we can create a bin, and then S3 client return. So S3 client, and then we put the put the code there. Then we just return client. So this is the way we declare a bin. So then in the service layer we can just simply use auto-wired and private S3 client. S3 client. And then just use this one here. And then in the controller the similar thing. So we can auto-wire a service, so, S3 service. Here, and then here we can just S3 service dot download the file, and then the file name. Bucket name, as I said, so usually we don't provide the bucket name there, so we can also add a value. And then we will give a name there, and the bucket. We can put this in the service or in the controller. It depends on whether you have multiple bucket for different controller, but let's just put it here for now. Import class here, and we can just put bucket here. So then this value annotation will read this here, and we can just put any random one like AWS dot my application dot bucket, okay, dot let's see, file. Okay, so this is my customized properties. We can put it in the properties annotation configuration, and then we give it the name. What's the bucket name? This one. Okay, so now from that complicated controller, now we refactor the controller into service layer, and then we use dependency injection. We customize or externalize all the parameters into here. So then everything should be okay. And now after the download file, it returns as input stream. Okay, so you can just put it here for now. Okay, input stream. This is the input stream. Okay, IS, and import it. So now here, okay, so we can do one thing is we can use HTTP servlet response. Okay, we can directly write our file to the response. Okay, and can just put this here, and response dot get output stream. Okay, and then we can have that file utils, file copy utils, and then just copy from our S3 bucket stream to our response stream. Okay, so then this is the process. One more time to recap it. So the user, once our customer, okay, send HTTP localhost 8080/file/file name, and then the file name will be extracted and it will be passed into the S3 service. The S3 service will go ahead to download the file from the controller. It doesn't care, but the service actually use the S3 client, which is also auto-configured, not auto-configured, but we configured, okay, in advance. So it will go ahead and create a request and download the file, and then return the input stream to the server, and then the server will copy the stream to the response stream. Okay, so from S3 file stream to the HTTP response stream. Okay, back to the user. Advantage of using stream is we don't need to buffer the file in the server. Otherwise, if the file is like, let's say 20 gigabyte, then if you buffer all the file into your memory, then you need a 20 gigabyte of memory, which doesn't make sense, right? So if like 2 users is gonna use 40 gig of memory, that doesn't make quite sense. But using stream, so the file will be buffered and sent, so you don't have to buffer the whole file there. Okay, so now let's refresh it and see what's going on. Successfully started, and then we go to this here, and localhost 8080/file. Now we have to give the real file name, right? Pictures PNG. Okay, hit enter, and you can see now we get the file from our localhost 8080/file/pic.png. Right, so also we can get another one. Where's the, okay, so the pictures, right? So pictures/pic. Can do this pictures/pic. Okay, and then it will tell us it's not found. Okay, I think it is because of this path issue here. Okay, the client, when we declare this client. Okay, so it's this forced path style. Okay, let's refresh it. Let's see. Oh, sorry, not because of that. I made a mistake. It is because this is our URL. Okay, so this the request mapping. It doesn't treat this whole thing as a parameter. It treated the pictures as a how to say that, as a path. Okay, so this URL becomes like a /file/picture/pic, but this is supposed to be our parameter, right? So this is the issue. Like you can see here, we have the confusion. This is my parameter, okay, but from the browser's perspective, or from the server's perspective even, this /file/picture is your path, right? It is your URL. It's not supposed to be like this is your parameter. Okay, this is your parameter. Actually, the pic is your parameter, but this is your path. /file/pic is your path of your URL. This is regarding the encoding. We gonna talk about this, okay, when we talk about security, but this is a bad example, okay, so use the path, but let's see what if we use a double quotation here, okay. It's still the same thing, so it won't work. We have to use encoding to solve this kind of problem, okay. So that is why the slash, the special characters cause issues, okay, so in the servers, okay. We'll see how to fix them, but at this moment just use the file ID, right? Usually you don't use file name, you just use some IDs, and then you can just query the database, get the location of S3, and then send the request here, okay. Instead of directly give the file's name to the user, when the user upload the file, we save the file with a specific ID, and then we also save where it is in the S3 bucket, okay. So then later on we'll use that location to get from S3, so we don't expose the identifier or the real file name to the on the URL to the end client, okay. But anyways, so I'm gonna just upload this into the GitHub so we can refer to it, but in the end, one more last thing is the security, okay. So because we set it up in our .aws folder, so that's why we don't need to hard code our keys, okay. So in our code, if we don't have that, let's see if I copy this, okay, and put it to our this here, okay, AWS. I don't even remember the parameter. We can just quickly look at the document, okay. So when we talk about this here, okay, so developer guide and setup, okay, let's see, in the setup, using SDK, using credentials, okay, and it should give us some credentials. Oh, so here we can use this, okay. So when the client, okay, is created, we can provide the credentials. So in the S3 config, okay, so here we can actually provide a credential provider, okay. Credential provider, and then we can have these different providers, okay. By default is using environment, the default one is the .aws folder, okay, but we can change it to our own. So if you want to use your username password, for instance, okay, let's see, where is it, credential, which is process credential provider, okay. So this is the one, and oops, okay, not process or credential, not this one, sorry. There must be somewhere, okay. Let me find it very quick. AWS credential provider. Let's download the source code and take a look at default credential provider, static credential provider. Okay, I think it's this one. Okay, so static credential provider, and then .create. Okay, so, and then here we can have AWS credentials. Okay, AWS credentials dot maybe a new object, new AWS basic credentials, okay. Here it will take two strings, okay, so you can see here this is the source code, access key and the secret key, okay. So then here is where we put all those two keys there, okay. So if you want, you can just hard code your own key there, and we can as protected, okay. So it's a builder pattern, so we have to use @create, okay. This is the code. So when we create the S3 client, if we use this, then it won't use this. It won't use the one that we set it in our local AWS folder, okay. And if I now try it on, okay, so we will have an error, okay, saying that access key cannot be blank. You can see, even though I didn't put anything here, right? But you can feel like now they are using the access key from here because it's blank, so that's why it's give error. So it will just ignore the one that is here. Okay. If I copy this one here and then copy this one here, of course we can use the value annotation, right? Just like how we do the bucket to just put it into the properties. But if I do that, okay, so then it will still work. You can see everything goes well, and then our API will still work, right? We can still download from the S3 bucket. So there are multiple different ways to authenticate. We can hard code our keys in the system, in the application, hard code it in our properties file. That is one way. Or another way is we can provide this, right? So because it's a property, and if we use the auto injection, then when we start the Docker, we can provide the key and the secret. Okay, and also the best way is to use EC2 roles, right? Just like the one we talk about when we talk about the IAM. We assign the role to the server itself so that our system, our application, don't need to have any secret key hard code to it. Okay, so that's a best way for that. But just keep this in mind. So once we talk about cloud, the security is important, and we have to be careful about how you design or implement, especially once you get to your own project. Maybe you will never see the credentials. Okay, so just don't worry about that. In the end, the credential will be assigned either by a container, the environment variable, operating system level, or server level, or cloud level, right? So they are all will be there. Okay, so that's it. Thanks.